Hello, everybody, and welcome to Build. Welcome to day one of a new series. I, as always, am excited to kind of get into a new mindset and have something a little bit different that's our driving force or a mantra or the idea that kind of drives all of the workouts. A lot of the exercises and things are going to be, of course, similar. They come back over and over again. I try to keep things exciting and new for myself as much as for you. But within all of those exercises, I think it's really amazing to have kind of this driving force behind us and behind a series. So this series is Build. We are going to be building awareness, mobility, strength, stamina, endurance, flexibility, breath, all sorts of things. So today we are going to be focusing on mobility and core. We're going to be going in 1 minute sets, and we're going to have 10 minutes between our sets. So it's not a lot of transition time, but just enough to kind of give me a second to explain what's coming. We'll probably eat into a few seconds on the first minute, but for those of you who are coming back, just keeping the cycles going, and you've been here for many series, welcome, and just enjoy kind of getting into the reminders of our foundation and what's important and how the body should be setting into place before we even get into our movement or exercises that we've all become very familiar with. So I think it's important to set into our awareness, know what's going on in the body, check in with how our posture and everything is lining up, and then work from there. So before we get on our timer, we're going to be going 2 rounds. I'm going to enjoy being barefoot. I would recommend going barefoot if that works for you, at least for a while. Everyone should really be able to function barefooted. I know some of us have had some things going with our feet, whether it's high arches, fallen arches, plantar fasciitis, whatever else. But the more that you can kind of spend some time in bare feet and getting some awareness back through and build the muscle into the feet without relying on the support of the shoe, then the better off everything else is going to be up the chain. So, but again, that's up to you, personal preference. We are going to go through some stretches, standing stretches. And while we're going there, I want you to think about your posture. So set your feet straight ahead, knees line with toes. Your hips should be pretty level. Core strong, pretty level, meaning sometimes we might have little discrepancies we may or may not be aware of. So that's something that we're going to try to build awareness of through our series. Lift up the chest. Sometimes the best way to make sure that you can get that core starting to engage and the back in the place that it should be is just lifting the chest up off the rib cage. Now, sometimes once you lift the chest, the pelvis will fall forward. So then once you get that chest up, just tuck gently the tailbone under. You'll feel the belly contract and pull back. Roll your shoulders back and down. Take your left ear to left shoulder, right ear to right shoulder, left ear, left shoulder, right ear to right. So here you should be just kind of in your standard normal posture. And as we build muscle and awareness, it'll feel tall and strong and confident. All right, inhale, bring those arms all the way up. Exhale, pull to one side. We want to watch that pelvis as we're pulling side to side. Inhale, center, exhale, pull to the other. Inhale, center, and then stretch forward. We're not going to spend too much time in a warm-up because nothing today is really that high intensity, but it's still really good. Still good. It'll still build the heat. I anticipate sweating. We have a lot of core contractions going on. Bend one knee and the other. If you can't touch the floor, it's not a problem. You can plant your hands on your shins. You can set something on the floor to bring it up to you, or you can plant your hands on your thighs. All right, and then we're just going to step our legs a little bit wider, hinge side to side, and then we're going to get going. So slide over to one side, and then slide over to the other. Check in with those feet. They should be pretty much pointed straight ahead. Knees line with the toes. Remember, we want to lift that rib cage, even when we're hinging forward. Lift that rib cage. You'll feel that core contract and respond. All right. Flip your body around. We're going to go down into a child's pose. So you're going to pull your knees super wide, big toes together. Sit back on your heels and then reach your arms way out in front. Lift your elbows up off the ground so that your arms are staying active. Drop your forehead on the ground and then feel your shoulder blades slide down your spine. So depending on how long you've been working out, especially with me, some stuff may kind of not make exact sense, but I would challenge you to just stick with it over time. Just a little change up of the cueing, or just as your body awareness builds, you'll figure out what's going on. So maybe right now you might be like, slide my shoulder blades down. What does that mean? Over time, you'll figure that out. But we're trying to slide those wings down into our back pockets. Okay, so first off, we are going to be on our hands and knees, and we're going to go into a transverse abdominis draw. So we're just drawing up the core. We're not going to arch the back. We're not going to round the back. We're just focused on grabbing flexion and heat in through the abdomen, and then we're going to build on that as our session goes on. So here we got our first set, 1 minute. Ready, set, and go. So I'll talk us through as we go along. You want to have your fingertips all spread out nice and wide. Your thumb and first finger are gripping into the ground. From there, feel your belly button and rib cage draw up to the back, to your spine. So eventually, if not today, it's fine, but eventually you'll feel the front of the belly through the rib cage, the sides, those are your obliques, and your pelvic floor muscles. So if you're just trying to actively draw up the core right here, we're not doing anything. We're not moving, we're not crunching, we're not rolling. But if you can build the awareness of this flexion without even moving, everything else is going to be super awesome and build on top of that. We have 15 seconds left. You're not taking breaks unless you need one. Create space between ears and shoulders. Find some torque in your arm. So pull your elbow back toward your thigh. Keep your transverse draw. So we have a 10-second break. I want you to keep your draw. And what's going to happen is you're going to flex your foot and pick your knee up. And we're going to push our knee up into a donkey kick. You need to keep your hips level. Transverse muscles drawn. Drop your knee down and then open to the side. So we're engaging the core. Kick straight up. Grabbing through that glute and hamstring, and then building into mobility. So we want to get mobility into that hip joint without moving the low back. So your low back is a stable point, and to keep your low back stable, you have to engage the core. Open to the side, keep that foot flexed, and then punch through the heel. I have to watch it too. Make sure that you're not leaning onto the side. Slide your shoulder blades down, flexion through that core. Remember that transverse draw, keeping the belly drawn tight. Keep your foot flexed, open out to the side, and then push up. Shoulder blades slide down, flex deep into that abdomen. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, reset. Take a break in that child's pose if you need. Otherwise, hang out in your transverse draw. So keep the belly still strong. If you need a break on your wrist, fold them under, that's fine. We're going to the other side. Draw the belly in, push your knee up, and then out. One side may be a little more problematic than the other. Flex into your back, and then draw that core. So nothing like your range of motion in the knee doesn't matter. So nothing matters as much as keeping that core drawn and your hips level and stable. Kick and open, getting that range of motion, different ranges of motion in that hip joint. Your back should be engaged. If you're pushing into the hands, rotating those elbows back, you should feel your triceps, that core, find that transverse draw. You've got it. Kick, drop, open. All right, flip it over. We're going to start seated. We're going to do a Pilates roll. So last session, we did a lot of stretching. Our main stretch that we focused on was leaning over the toes. So that's where our start is. And then we're going to roll back, push your low back onto the ground, reach your arms overhead, tuck, and then roll all the way back. So if you get to a point that you know you won't come back from, just stop there and then roll back up. So your goal here is to get your low back to push toward the ground It'll come off the ground as you reach overhead, then you sink it right back in as you roll up. When you reach forward, that core still stays contracted. Flex deep into the belly, scoop, tuck your chin, roll up, and reach. Focus on where you're grabbing. If you feel it in your neck and shoulders, what that means usually is that you're grabbing more from the shoulders, and we need to develop the core. So that's what we're here for. Don't freak out. You can always support. Flip back over. We're going to go into a plank. If a plank doesn't work for you, you can do a bird dog, and I'll show you. Otherwise, put your elbows on the ground and then pull your shoulder heads super far forward past your elbow crease. So a lot of times what happens is our hips end up drooping or they end up super high in the air. What we want to try to find is a little bit of height, and then you take that height out by tucking the top of your pelvis toward the bottom of your rib cage, and then you pull the elbows back toward toes and tighten in by tucking up through the core. If a plank doesn't work for you, I'll have you start with a bird dog. So you extend one arm and leg just like we did with our transverse draw. I want you to stay strong through that abdomen, tight through the core. From here, we're going to be rolling into a side plank. So if anything doesn't work, all you need to do is just go back to your transverse draw. Okay, we're going to rotate to a side plank. You can just roll over and go. One of the ways to set up in a side plank is to keep your elbow, set your elbow under your shoulder, and start with shortened legs. So if your legs start too far away, it's tough to get that full height. So then you kind of stack them up. You can use your top hand to help get that initial push. But the goal is to get your hips in line with the shoulders, then open up from there. If you need some help, you can cross your top leg over the bottom, or you can keep your bottom knee on the ground. All right, we have 30 seconds to go. So when you're in these held positions, it's good to just scan the body, flex in, wrap around, tighten deep, lift up through that chest, flex through the thighs, grab through the front of the belly. After here, we're going to go to the other side. If we need to, we can take a little break in between. We have that 10 seconds and time. So feel free, grab a quick little child's pose, and then we're going to rotate. Ready, set, and go. Now, if you're just starting out, a minute is a long time to hold a side plank. All you need to do is just stop as many times as you need, take a break, reset, and come back. Lift up out of that chest. Same as I was talking about when we're standing. Most of the time, as soon as you lift the chest, you'll get that connection into the core. Tuck your tailbone under just a little bit, and then you should be good to go. Push up through those hips. We want to try to envision you have a string pulling your hips up, stacking with that top shoulder, or you have a car jack under that bottom hip, pushing, 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 constantly keeping that push and height. Flex in through your legs, open through the chest. All right, nice work. Next up, we're going to have a kneeling roll. So you're going to curl those toes under. You're going to start back on your heels. We're going to push your hips up, roll back onto your heels, and then we're going to stand all the way to the top. Drop back down. If any of this doesn't work for your knees, then you can just squat. We're going to get over those toes, drive those hips forward. This is one of those points where building mobility and using the core. Glutes grab, core grabs, push up, using all different parts of the leg. Good opportunity to build strength in the bottom of the feet. Range of motion for those ankles. Tighten through that core. You've got it. Think about your posture, your pelvis, that big bony structure. Where is it in space? When you drive your hips forward, they shouldn't be over pushing. Just stack. Okay. Next up, we have a bear. So a bear is basically a plank on your hands and toes with your knees bent. Shoulders over your wrists. Curl your toes under and then just barely lift your knees up off the ground. And then you're drawing those transverse abdominis in again. If this becomes too much, drop onto your knees and hold that transverse draw with the knees on the ground. So elbows tuck in, back toward your knees, belly button draws up, your rib cage draws up. Pull your hands back toward the toes so you're building traction through the body. Little shake means you're gripping well. See if you can find flexion through your thighs, through your back, through the triceps. Tighten through the belly. 10 seconds to go. You've got it. Hold deep. Flex, flex. When you hear the timer, push the legs straight up, the butt straight up. See if you can walk your hands back towards your toes and come up. All right, another mobility / core move. A pyramid hinge. Right toe straight forward, left foot back. Your left arm's going to come up. You're going to hinge your hips back. Keep that core contraction. Drop all the way down and then come all the way to the top. So eventually we'll definitely be doing this with weight. Next time we do it, we'll be doing it with weight. If this range of motion is tough, then you would just stay here without weight. So you want to find the ability to rotate in your shoulder blade. That shoulder head. Drop down. I have pretty flexible hamstrings, so if you're only getting this far, that's okay. It's not abnormal. Flex deep into that core. I want you to feel like your torso is lengthening. So the chest is still pulling away from the hips. My upper arm is tired, not even holding weight. All right, switch to the other side. Left toe forward, toes forward. Your right heel lines up with your left heel. Right arm is up. Hinge those hips back, rotate through, and then come up. There's a little twist forward at the top. I probably didn't get that super pronounced. On the other side, it's too busy blabbing. Notice what your body does through each range of the motion. It's checking in, connecting with. We're finding awareness, building awareness of the body through different pieces of movement, space, and time. Don't worry if things are crazy or feel weird. That's why we're not holding weight today. We're just trying to build foundation of core, back, glutes, different ranges of motion to increase mobility, which increases health. Time. All right, we're going to do a deep squat with an overhead hold. So first off, see if you can come down into a low squat with your heels on the ground. All right, and then from there, we're going to try to keep our arms up. And this is something that I definitely struggle with. So my arms should be pulled up just a little higher, but I'm working on it. I just want you to know I'm not the ultimate view right now. Sink those hips as low down as you can. And I want you to think about your pelvis again. Squeeze those shoulder blades back. Flex through the core. Dig up through your glutes, your thighs. So you're pushing through the heels. But you should feel that pelvis sit straight down and straight up. How do you do that? With the core. Tighten up through that belly. Find that position. Get your hips mobile and open. Sit as deep as you can. It's okay if you're not getting as low. 3, 2, and 1. All right, we're going to go right back in to the beginning. That transverse abdominis draw. All right, shoulders over the wrist, knees stay on the floor, tuck, tighten, and grab. This is a great time to build awareness of the body. Can you get the core to flex without rounding in the back or sagging? It'll be tough to take a complete deep breath of air, but you should still be able to breathe. Find that flexion. Get into your pelvic floor muscles, tighten under that rib cage, draw up. See if you can feel your back staying extended, lengthened, flat. Grab that rib cage. 10 seconds to go. Remember, next we'll have our donkey kick to side to our dirty dog. Donkey to dirty dog. Tighten through the belly. Elbows stay wrapped back through the core. Tuck up through those transverse muscles. Make sure that you can stay there. We're going to lift and kick first. Drop the knee back down and open. This side is definitely more difficult for me, so check in, see what you feel. Side to side. Have you lost the core? Is your back starting to sag? Feel your hamstring and glute grab to pull the leg up, belly firm. See if you can create resistance. So envision you're pulling against a band, one direction and the other. You got it. Come on, stay on it. Tuck those elbows back. It's only difficult if you make it, and we want to make it difficult. We want to find that resistance. Flexion, you got to stay with the belly. Time. All right. Stretch my wrist the other direction real quick. 3, 2, and go. Find your draw. Press, drop, and open. Mentally connect with the muscles. It's that neuromuscular connection. It's super important. We start to lose it as we age. So check in, close the eyes. It's fine. You don't need to be seeing anything right now. What do you feel? Check for twists that shouldn't be happening. Leans, compensations. Lengthen the back. How are those transverse abdominis? Are they still drawing tight? Keep it there. 3, 2, and 1. Oh, okay, we're going to hit up our Pilates roll next. Reach those arms super far forward. Find that flexion through the belly. Tuck your chin, lower down. See how high you can keep your arms. Take your time. These shouldn't be fast. You have to hold that core under tension. Lower back. Tuck in. Remember, if you self-flex enough, if you get enough flexion and you work against your own resistance, what can be easy, you can create more self-resistance and flex against and continue to build. There's really no arrival in fitness, strength, health, flexibility, constantly working, constantly advancing, and time. I think it's fun as you build strength and you start to build the desire to do things right. Get it set in the direction that you want. Okay, we're in our plank. Make sure that you can keep coming back. So if you find yourself becoming injured, chances are that something is off in your lineup. There's discrepancies. at least from work. If you're getting injured from just working out, not from some other outside force, there's something going on in the body. We're missing it somewhere. Check in with that core. If you're feeling a lot of shoulder, you'll get better at it. The core will strengthen. Usually when you first start working out, the core hasn't been very developed. So planking isn't very easy or very fun at first. Maybe you need to start in that transverse draw. Stay there a little longer. Okay, we're going to turn to our side plank. Remember that setup. Lift up through those hips. Drive deep through that oblique. Open up through the chest. Tuck through the tailbone. I'll call 30 seconds in case you want to switch. You want to keep that focus on the oblique as opposed to the shoulder. Stack those hips. 3, 2, hit that other side if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and rotate over. Take a little scan of the body. How are those hips? Are they rolling back or forward? They should be stacked. So if you're lying on the ground and they're level, you want the same thing here. Remember, we want to drive up through that oblique. Get away from resting on your skeletal system. Take a break if you'd like, or roll back to the other side. We're going to finish it up. Good. Lift up and hold. That's it. Stay with it. Check those hips. I got to check them too, especially in a plank. I feel like I've been doing lots of planks for a long time. Okay, switch to that other arm unless you're doing a minute. So it's easy for me to build habits that aren't helpful. So check in, learn to question what you've been doing for a long time, and just double check that it's still being done the proper way. Try to spot those early discrepancies early on. Okay, we're going to do our kneeling roll. So hinge up, sit back, woo, come up. Not super smooth. That's what I'm here for. Find things that are difficult, challenge me in new ways. Find that core. Grab those glutes, thighs. See if you can get different little spots to check in. Can you keep the chest tall? Your pelvis set? How much do you need to use your arms? It's okay if you need to over time. You won't have to. Feel free to grab a pillow or blanket. Push pause, come back. If you need for your knees. Time. Okay, we have our bear, our pyramid, and then that squat. Ready, set, and go. Remember, you can just hit your transverse draw. You don't want to hold the bear. I think we'll be doing more bear poses this upcoming series. A little change up from tons of planks. It's definitely a different kind of core action. Find that draw. Find your pelvic floor. We just passed halfway. Traction between your toes and hands. flexion between your thighs. Make sure that low back isn't sagging. Keep your pelvis in neutral. 3, 2, and come up. Hoi. All right, left leg forward. Line up that back heel. Right arm up. Start forward. Twist, rotate, stack your shoulders. Envision you're holding a 20-pound kettlebell in your top arm. How would you need to adjust? How much more flexion would you have to find in your core? Flex, contract, wrap, then get those movements done. Flex it in. Hold strong. Three, 2, and 1. All right, to the other side. Line up those heels. Shoulders back and down, forward, then open. You can definitely play around with the distance apart that your feet are. Check in. See what you can use from your torso to help get that lift. Flex all the way around that rib cage. It's not just a belly button back type scenario. Always wrapping all the way around. You got it. And time. All right. Get that wider stance. I have to go a little wider to get down low in my squat. Bring those arms up. Tuck your tailbone. Here we go. Sit down. Drive up. Check in with that pelvis. That's what we're kind of really watching. It's hard on that back, shoulders. Tighten the core. Try to open your chest. See if your toes are turning differently. Look at my arms. One's definitely getting a little wonkus. Something to work on. We'll get there. We'll get there. Figure out how to make it better. Find more flexibility into the back and shoulders. Time. Okay. Good job, everybody. First day of build. Got her done. Let's stretch from our front side. So drop your back knee on the ground. Your hip is going to be right up on top of your knee. Tuck your hips under. And then just start leaning forward a teeny bit till you feel that stretch, the back hip flexor. Okay, so from here, I still want you to grab that core. We don't want to overarch the low back, so just hinge, keeping the core solid. Bring your right arm up and then reach over. So we hit a stretch at the end of every series. Kind of pick a new one to work on, something to kind of give us some progress, show progress and flexibility. So this series, all right, pull your toe up and make sure those hips are squared off. Pull your back hip forward, front hip back. Reach your chin toward those toes. If you need to bring something up, that's totally fine. You don't have to touch the floor. You should feel your hamstring. So that's the back of your upper thigh. With this series, we are going to work on our pigeon, otherwise known as the world's greatest stretch. All right, so for that pigeon, you're going to take your foot across, pull your heel back toward your thigh. Okay, and then basically now you're in a position where your front leg is folded under with your foot across to the opposite side of the mat. And then you want to check your hips. So this may be your stretch right now, and this is fine. But the biggest thing is that your hips and pelvis stay facing the ground. So if you want, you can bring that back knee back, just walk it back until you get as low as you like. Once you kind of set down, go ahead and re-roll the front of the right hip toward the ground, because that right hip is going to want to roll up. And I have a couple clients that if they don't do this stretch properly, it does yank on their glute and hip and low back. So please make sure you do it right. Check in. We want to build awareness. So pull that right hip down. Keep that belly gently drawn to protect different things. And then you should feel the main part of the stretch in that left side of your glute, your hip. And if you've been doing a pigeon for a while, not that big of a deal. I'll allow you. Do whatever you need to make adjustments. Okay, walk your back knee in. Push into your hands. Take your left foot back. And then let's bring our right leg forward. Drop your right or left knee. Tuck your hips. So make sure the hips line right up on top of your knee. And then you're just slowly going to hinge forward till you feel that pull in the left hip flexor. Bring your left arm up and then lean. Where's the core? Keep it still going. You need to keep that core active to keep the pelvis in place. Okay. And then extend your right leg straight out in front. Try to drop that right hip down. Pull those toes up on the right side. Reach the chest toward the toes. All right, we are off to a banging start. If you've been around very long, you know that it's healthy, and I like to bring in lower intensity days, slow things down. I didn't get super drippy, but I definitely got a sweat going. So holding things in place and lining up takes work, and it's a challenge in a new way, and it's super healthy for the body. Take your foot across the mat, walk your hands forward. I think our culture has somehow taught us to think, here, I'll get us in our stretch first. So walk that back leg back, just shimmy that knee. Remember, you only go so far as you can and keep your pelvis squared off. So you can set a pillow or block or rolled up towel under your right hip. So culture's taught us, or whatever the magazines on the shelf at the grocery store, that we need the highest calorie burn and the most sweat and can barely lift our bodies up off the ground after a super high intensity workout. And those are definitely good to bring in, and we will have some intensity days, but it's also extremely good to remember that those are not efficient and not healthy long term on a super frequent basis. It's stressful on the body, it's stressful on your nervous system, it's stressful for your heart. There is obviously a certain amount of that stress that we need. That's what gives us progressions. But balance is really more where we need to hone in. All right, we're going to take that back knee in, walk, crawl it up. All right. Bring those legs together. Push your hips up off the ground. Let's just let our hands hang over, straighten through the backs of the legs. All right, it's going to be a good trip. I'm excited for the next 59 days with you. All right, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.